Welcome to the Code Mortals channel, and today we are going to open source an open source project. And you may think, open source inception? No, we've written a documentation on why it's better to open source your project, and we're going to open source that documentation. Let me show you how to do it. Here we are on the Code Mortals organization on GitHub, and let's create a new repository. The name is going to be Why to Open Source. You can change this later, but we recommend you don't. It does cause other complications. The description you can update many times quite easily, and it doesn't affect anything. Yes, it's going to be public, and yes, we'll initialize with a README. We won't add a git ignore. We don't want to ignore any files. We're not adding a framework or library. And we'll choose the MIT license, which is one of the most popular ones. And let's hit create. Now it's taken us to Why to Open Source, the repo we just created. As you can see, the MIT license is already there. You can see the label on the top right here, and you can see the license file, and you can see it's created a README with a title in the description, which we can easily update. We don't even need to do this on the command line. You can do it directly from GitHub's UI. We're going to create a new file, and we will call it index.adoc. And this could be MD for Markdown, it could be ADOC for ASCII docs. We're going to write it in ASCII docs, which is very similar to Markdown. However, it's kind of like Markdown on steroids. It allows you to do a lot more things. People have written books with this, and that's actually what is used as industry standard to write books. And then you can generate PDFs from it, mobile books, websites. You can even add diagrams as a code, so therefore it's not a binary that's always changing within your project. It's really easy to follow, and I'll show you more about that in another video. So I have written this before, and I'll paste it in. I will take you through it. So this is the title on the first page. Where you've got equals, it's very similar to having a hash in Markdown. However, in ASCII docs and ASCII Doctor, the framework and the tooling we're using to create the website, we can have a TOC, table of contents, date, version, and doc info 1. And it will create all the links for us. So, and by links, what I mean is on the table of contents, it will automatically link to the right section. I've written an abstract. So 2 equals again is like 2 hashes. So a H2 in the HTML equivalent. And you can see this is what we've written. I'm going to show you the final version. Have a read. Any improvements, do let us know. Trying to see, and then 3 equals, as you can guess, 3 equals is just like 3 hashes, which is equivalent of H3. And you can actually, in an ADOC, you can actually use standard Markdown. The table's a lot nicer in ASCII docs. It's possible to define how big the columns are. Also, the table, although displayed with rows going down and columns going across, when you write it, the titles go down and each row goes down in its own section, and it makes it a lot easier to read it on the page when you're editing. And that's basically it. Going to commit it now, I would just give it, I'll commit a name, and we'll say initial open source documentation. And we can commit it to a branch, or we can commit it to master. Let's just commit it to a branch to show good practice. And we can propose the file change. We can give it a title. If there's an issue, we can reference the issue, and it will show us the changes underneath. Let's just create the pull request, and here's the pull request, and someone else in the team can now review it. Although this already has been reviewed, this is what we'd normally do. And we also can add then CI to build it into a website or into a PDF, as I've done on various other projects. If we go view the file, GitHub does actually render it with the relevant links, just like it would a Markdown file. Let me read some of this out. This is, I think, really important. You're probably already benefiting and accelerating your project by using open source, from libraries like React to frameworks like Angular. Did you know that you're barely scratching the surface and could benefit even more by making your projects open source too? Have you ever asked yourself, why should I open source my project? Perhaps the question you should be asking is, why should I not open source my project? Just to be clear, your data will still remain private. In fact, it will become even more secure because there will be a larger skill set reviewing your work, from developers to InfoSec people to UX people. The Code Mortals team worked hard on this, and there are different levels of open source. There is the checkbox exercise, which most companies do. They release it as open source, and it's kind of a dead project before it's even started. And it's dead because either they finished it or they're not interested in it and they just wanted to tick a box. But there's no benefit, you might as well not do it. Then there is the average level, level number 2. It's where people release it as open source and they engage with people if and when it's discovered, but they're not pushing it. It's kind of like I don't know, creating a social media account and not engaging with people. There is the more advanced version where people record tutorials on how to get started with their project, behind the scenes on their team working with the project. And then this is building up a community around the project across social platforms, not just social coding on GitHub, but also social platforms like Twitter, Instagram. And you build up a relationship with the community, therefore the culture is reinforced and people feel like they want to get involved and want to engage. Then you can go to level 4, which some of the great companies do, which is they have a developer relations, like DevRel, where they're mentoring people to get on board with the project and to help them contribute. And they then become advocates of the project, and they become true fans and encourage other people. And then they become true fans and they encourage other people to join. Your community grows exponentially. Now the pull request has been merged. You can see the ADoc is there and rendered. Let's update the README to make it a little bit nicer. You can add images to the repository, but I'm not a fan of adding binaries to the repository. So what I've done is I've created an issue and I've dropped the image inside, as you can see here. Then what we can do is we can grab the path to that image and put it in the README. Just by hitting edit, we can edit the README file. Let's just remove the hyphens from the title. And then we know the image, screenshot of documentation. And then if we preview the changes, we should see the image. Image added to README. And we can commit that direct to master. When we land on the project homepage, we see a screenshot.